Hi everybody, welcome to another episode of Inside HR. I'm Mick Griffin from TRAFFIT, and today we are joined by Hung Lee, joining us from London. Hey Hung, how are you doing today, buddy?
I'm very well, Mick, very well, and thank you for inviting me on the show. Delighted to be here.
No, great. So Hung, if I get this right, you are the curator of recruitment Brainfood. I'm a subscriber. Could you tell the audience a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. So basically, I have been working in the recruiting business now for nearly 20 years. But in fact, it might even be 20 years just gone, actually. So I'm a 2-decade veteran of this business. Worked in agency, worked in-house, worked as a trainer, launched my own tech platform. And over the last couple of years, I've been curating a newsletter. And I guess I'm setting up what is effectively a media business now. So recruitingbrainfood.com basically is a way in which people in the recruitment industry can get really cool curated knowledge to get inspired and better at what they want to do.
Okay, great. We are going to get into a really hot topic today, which is we're going to talk about the recruiter-candidate experience, let's say, and the relationship. But quick question before that started. I love recruiting Brainfood as well. I'm a subscriber. But has that drive for knowledge happened in the last couple of years, or recruiters have always been looking for knowledge? Is that why it kind of popped up now?
I think recruiters have always been looking for knowledge, but there was too much crap out there that we couldn't actually identify it. So recruiting Brainfood isn't a case of, we need to add more knowledge to the world. Hence why it's a curated newsletter and not a created one. There is already great content out there, Mick. The problem is that recruiters can't discover it because there's too much SEO, there's too much kind of clever marketing, there's too much clickbait, too much ad buying, and it's hard to just go through and find that one brilliant article because you've got to swim through 20 crap ones. So what Recruiting Brainfood does is clear out the crap ones and just gives you the absolute best. And that's my own kind of taste and my own kind of hand-picked kind of stuff. But I think that's why people like it. They've honored me by trusting me with that decision and a bit of their attention on a Sunday or Monday. And I just pick out things that I think are really interesting and useful and package it into an email that everyone gets once a week.
No, I mean, I agree. I mean, when there's 100 what you find is, from my point of view, when I'm trying to learn about recruitment, you've got 20 years, I've got 4 months. So I'm trying to catch up. But basically,
just takes 4 months, Mick. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, that's it. I'm almost there. Yeah.
You're already there, yeah.
But yeah, when there's 100, you know what it's like? It's like there's 100 pieces, articles to read that you could read. You don't end up reading 10, you end up reading 0 because you just get paralyzed by choice, right? So someone like you is giving a filter and a suggestion, it just makes the choice for you, which is way easier. So no, I highly recommend it. It's helped me a lot in the last few months. And we'll definitely come back at the end of the show and we'll tell people where to find you. So today, everybody, we are going to talk about a topic which is the recruiter and candidate relationship, and how we think that's changing, especially we've got COVID thrown into the mix, but in general, how this is changing and how people are kind of dealing with this. So, Hung, my first question to you is, you're a veteran, or what we could say, of the space. Really easy first question. Is recruiter-candidate relationships improving or getting worse, as, say, like if we look over the last 5 years?
It's getting worse, and the reason why it's getting worse, there's lots of reasons behind it. COVID-19, unfortunately, has just been a massive accelerator for all of these underlying trends. The reason why I'm quite confident to say it's getting worse, even though it's hard to measure this thing, is simply we've got a lot more stressed job seekers now. COVID-19 has created basically a global stop of the economy. Lots of people have lost their jobs or have suddenly become income insecure. When you're in that mindset and you're worried about your mortgage, you're worried about your income and all the rest of it, and you're a reluctant job seeker, let's say, then every time you interact or don't interact with the recruiter and it's not a positive experience going forward to a job offer, you're going to get annoyed. And of course, there's been less jobs. There's been a massive crunch in the number of jobs being published. Lots of recruiters themselves have lost jobs, so they're also stressed. So you got two parties that probably never had ever had the best relationship going. As now you had COVID really making both of those parts stressed. Of course, that relationship has been stressed also.
And, you know, if one of the things I've noticed, and we talked about this before the call, which was basically candidates are now becoming more vocal. And over the last few years, platforms like Glassdoor have given employees a place to talk, a place to vent, but we didn't really get a platform where, you know, candidates or unsuccessful candidates feel that they knew enough about a company to say, like, I had an awful recruitment experience with this company or this company. However, like you said, the stress is bringing it out. And I don't know about you, but I'm seeing it on LinkedIn. I'm seeing people, candidates at first, where I was like, you can't complain you didn't get a job. Come on, it's, you know, the recruiter has the power. And I was this old school thinking, like, if you didn't get the job, you've got to kind of own that. But I see that candidates are not complaining that they don't get roles. They're complaining about the process, the time it took. Why am I waiting 2 weeks to get a rejection if you know, already knew that? Are you seeing the same kind of thing?
I would be very comfortable to support your assessment of that.
Sure.
And the reason why that is the case is because of the wider economic situation. You know, it's extremely difficult for one of the big problems with general candidate experience, Mick, is that the recruiters generally are not incentivized to provide that level of service. And that sticks in the craw of everyone who listens to this, because, you know, you might think, oh, why aren't they doing that? Well, the simple reason is they're not targeted to do that, whether you're agency side or in-house side. And if you spend every single minute of your day focusing purely on the candidate and neglecting on all of the stuff that you are targeted in, you're going to get fired. Now, if that happens, then obviously you disappear, and then the only people that survive are going to be the ones that focus on target. So let's not forget that recruiters are there to recruit people for jobs. They're not there to provide jobs for people. Now, that fundamental division is something I don't think the market particularly understands. I remember very clearly my first attempt at getting a job. I didn't understand what a recruiter did.
Sure.
I really had no clue. I was thinking, oh, does this person help me find a job? And of course they would say, yeah, I'm going to help you find a job. But actually they're not incentivized to do that. They're paid by the employer. And until that shifts, then their loyalty is always going to be towards that employer, and rightly so. So I think there needs to be wider education on this. Probably candidates might need to, there's probably two things that can help ameliorate this. Number one, recruiters and employers do need to up their game. There's no doubt. We need to sort of elevate the importance of the candidate relationship far higher up the priority list. That means that recruiters need to be assessed on their candidate experience score, for instance. I know some great companies do actually do that, where there's effectively an NPS score for the candidates, can actually respond back to the recruiter and give them a score. They are ranked on that. And then on the other hand, I think candidates also need to kind of educate themselves on what the market reality is, and also accept that the expectation of getting a concierge service is probably not going to be there, particularly at the beginning of the process. That's the sad reality. So, you know, I think we're not going to be served by living in a fantasy world. We have to be served by living in a world that is real. And I think those are the two kind of areas we kind of collectively need to contribute towards.
I mean, I totally agree. And I think about this, you know, and I put myself in maybe a CEO's or a hiring manager's role. And it's, as much as maybe I don't agree because of the seat I'm in today, I totally appreciate that they have this, why would I care? Yeah, I want to find the right recruit. I want them in my team. I understand we're never going to make people happy that didn't get the job. So it's way down on the list. However, I would ask, you know, do you think that over time, unsuccessful candidates will play even a bigger role in this, that they will make CEOs, they will make hiring managers have to care about them? Like, are they going to increase their voice and have more influence?
Of course, yeah. I mean, we're already seeing evidence of this. Developers actually are very good at being pushing forward the candidate side, simply because they can build apps and build technology that kind of deal with what they see to be the problem. Unfortunately, they often have an attribution error. They assume it's just bad people doing the job of recruiting. It's not. It's basically people who don't have the capacity to provide this type of service.
Yep.
And one of the problems with capacity, and engineers and developers actually would understand this, is that you can't actually estimate the amount of work that a job is going to take. And anybody who's a recruiter can tell you that. It's not like, it's not like bricklaying where you could say, right, I lay 10 bricks per second. Let's say I'm super fast. Therefore, for me to lay a brick wall containing 100 bricks, it's going to take me this amount of time. That's predictable. With recruiting, a job can take half an hour to fill, or it could take 6 years to fill, or it may never be filled. Because you don't know. Let's, an example probably a little bit more grounded, but let's say I published a job advert online somewhere, and I had an unexpected deluge of candidate applicants. Thousands of people apply. Possible, right? A thousand people might apply to this one job. There's no way I can go through every single one of those candidates and give them custom feedback as to where they're at in their job. If I did that, I'd be fired. Simple as that. So I think that maybe I've just segued a little bit here, but yes, candidates will increase their voice, but they will still, I think, misdirecting their annoyance. And if candidates kind of go forward with a punitive mindset, like I'm going to go and attack the recruiting industry, I'm afraid that's something I can't support. And I think it's going to be counterproductive. I think what we've got to do is understand the mechanics of the recruiting industry, how it actually works. Massive flaws in that, by the way. But let's criticize it in the right way. Let's find a way to improve how this works. One of the ways is let's change the incentives. That's down to CEOs. That's down to industry leaders. That's down to those folks that can make that change.
And I think, I totally agree. And I think the irony thing is as well is that this is a two-way street. I mean, candidates are obviously feeling like they are the victims of the process when they are not being communicated to correctly. However, I'll give you a prime example. I talked to two different people last week, and I said, it seems like the industry has a real problem with this ghosting, right? One person said, yes, recruiters are ghosting candidates. And the next person said, candidates keep ghosting recruiters. Like they're not turning up for interviews and they're not telling them when they took a different role. So the communication path goes both ways. And I think they both have to own this a little bit.
The one thing to recognize as well, Nick, is that there's also no disincentives for bad behavior, right? So there's another factor that's a part of the problem. If I'm a candidate, I get a job, I'm not going to go around every single job board and take my CV down. I'm not going to go around to every single place where I've applied to a job and say, oh, by the way, I'm now withdrawing my application because I found another job. You just forget about them. But that bit of information is still in a system somewhere and is clogging up the work. It's increasing the work that both software and humans have to do. And so, I understand the ghosting phenomena. I don't think it's a great thing, but there's no disincentive against it. So again, I see it as a systemic problem. I don't see it as a moral problem. We need to find a way in which people can be signaled in terms of their availability and when they're not available and stuff like that. But then, you run bang into privacy issues when you try and do that. So it's going to be, there's loads of ways, there's loads of kind of knots in this string, I'm afraid to say.
Yeah, and I agree. I think it's like, if I even use kind of like, if I try to use this in a day-to-day comparison, it's like I even think about, Uber as a situation that, as a consumer of Uber, you think, yeah, great, at the end of my ride, I get to rate my driver, was he or she good, bad, different, whatever. And I still remember that day when someone said, do you know that you have a rating as a passenger? And I was like, what? You're like, yeah, check out your rating. I'm like, wait, I've got a 4.7. Why not a 5? And, like you said, drivers are also rating you if you waited and so on. And I am a big believer in like this culture that eventually we will end up with these kind of platforms that rate candidates, rate recruiters. We already have some of them in place. But like you said, they have to come with incentives. People have to have a reason why they should care.
Yeah, and I think these are good, but there has to be like, I think Uber and things like Airbnb have done a reasonable job of this actually, of providing the ratings on both sides. I think it's doable to a certain point. I'm just thinking about are we also capturing all of the details that's there? Again, I think recruiting is slightly different. Let's imagine a scenario where a bad recruiter experience. I remember back in my recruiting days, just to chain this into a concrete example, I knew there was like lots of candidates that thought I was the best recruiter ever. Why? Because they had a great experience. They ultimately got jobs or got close to it or whatever it is, and I was providing this great concierge service. There's a lot of people out there that would think absolutely the opposite. This guy is a joke. Why is he this? It's the same guy. The recruiter was just put in a different circumstance, having to work a job. And by the way, folks, when you're in an agency or when you're working in a corporate business, you often don't get the choice to choose which jobs you work on. There may be some impossible to fill job that's been around for forever. Boss says, you take this, what are you going to do? You have to go and work it. But you have to then deal with all of the history and legacy of that. Maybe the job's being multiply advertised. Maybe the candidate you're speaking to now already applied to that job placed but that was posted by the recruiter 3 weeks ago. But now you've taken it on and you know nothing about that, but you get the flag. So I think there's lots more that need to be done. I think review sites are value. I don't think they're going to solve this experience though. I think there's other things we need to do in and around it, but mainly systemically, we've got to change how we reward recruiters basically.
And I guess maybe the other thing is just like you said, is to not aim for perfection, because it probably doesn't exist. Let's not be put off by trying to fix it when we go, come on, it's never going to be fixed. Okay, but we can take a step. Great. It's the right direction, right?
Yeah, 100%. And that's a very great point. So I appreciate you pulling me up a little bit on that. Mick, absolutely any kind of incremental improvement is going to be there. And I think that, I think we will see it, I think, as you say, the pressure from the candidates is going to change employer and recruiter experience. I think technology can be a massive benefit as well. Oftentimes, what we need to eliminate really, the lowest hanging fruit, so to speak, is ambiguity. I don't think candidates walk around thinking I need this person to give me a 1 hour debrief as to why I didn't get the job. I don't think anybody is that truly that level of service. What they really want though is the end of the black hole type experience. What has happened to my application? That's technology can fix that. And I think we need to apply our efforts to sorting that part out. And I think it will ameliorate some of these problems for sure.
So I think it's a great moment to do it because I just to wrap that kind of segue up is like, I saw someone on Friday and I even shared it internally here at TRAFFIT where a candidate was like, it's 15 minutes to 5. My recruiter promised me an answer after my second interview by the end of the week. It's Friday and I'm so stressed. Should I call? Because if I call, I seem like I'm badgering the recruiter. It may affect their decision and they might change their mind about me. However, a promise is a promise, and they probably lost their entire weekend stressing about did they do the right thing or not, right?
Yep, no doubt.
But okay, Hung, so let's move out of the doom and gloom of what's wrong, and let's try to talk a little bit about maybe, what are the ways out there that people are getting this right? Have you seen any examples or any tools or any products where, that are out there improving the candidate recruiter experience?
Yeah, absolutely. So first thing I would like to say is there are tools out there that can help eliminate this ambiguity. So a lot of modern ATSs have the ability for the candidate to actually observe and monitor their own progress in these jobs if they've been put forward. Is it NCV review stage? Have you been rejected? Whatever it is. And I think that eliminates a lot of this, ambiguity, telephone chasing, email waiting, that kind of stuff. That's got to disappear. Related to this, I see a lot of tools that give the candidate a lot of agency in determining when and where things happen. So you're looking at scheduling tools, for instance. Again, eliminate the ambiguity, eliminate the chasing of emails and looking at calendars and all that. Here's the available slots. It's combined with all the hiring managers and their recruiters or whatever. You pick which slot you have. That's a much improved experience for the candidate. The availability of chatbots, I think, particularly on first contact on the careers page, I think super, super useful. You can interrogate this thing and it will tell you, or if it's implemented properly and trained properly, it will tell you the objective facts behind the job. Do you sponsor a visa? Is there a relocation package? These should be unambiguous facts about the job, but they may be difficult to surface out when you're hunting through text. Chatbots, I think, can help you deliver that. And again, they're 24/7. So it eliminates this weekend stress scenario. You'll notice on all of this, they're all small solutions. They're all like the mortar between the bricks kind of thing, but it makes the entire wall solid. And I think these things are definitely positive. They're happening last 2-3 years or so or more. Obviously, the adoption curve is not complete for everybody, but I believe it will be in due course. As I say, COVID's an accelerator. I think after this period, I would imagine these things will become mandatory instances in any recruiting process.
I mean, I can give you one example for myself. Like, around 12 months ago, me and my colleague were actually, I said to my colleague, like, go and apply for this job. Not because I want you to move the position, but the recruitment experience is really interesting. So basically it was like, there was a head of sales role and it was passed to me. Someone said to me to try it, and you applied for the role, but it was actually like a 15-question questionnaire. And at the end of it, you got a score and an instant approval or rejection. And, so my friend, he scored like 55%. He got an email showing you where he was on the scale that said, unfortunately, only people that are 70% above are going forward. Now, imagine, like, that was the most pleasurable rejection I've ever experienced as a potential candidate. So for me, I'm thinking that, like you said, it's not that people want a 1-hour consultation. It's that they are super happy to see fast input, fast output, right? And tools are out there to do that for companies and recruiters.
Can I also just add a final thing on this particular section? It's also a fact that we've been educated on quick feedback by consumer tech.
Yes.
These days we're very, very intolerant of things that don't give us immediate feedback. When's the last time you looked at a YouTube video and waited like 10 seconds for it to actually come on? No, it's like, come on, I need to see it now. So most of the technology we look at and spend our emotional energy towards are consumer technologies that basically have no latency between input and output. And any experience where there is a latency, dealing with a bank, let's say, or dealing with any kind of old system that's locked into the 1980s or whatever it is hyper frustrating because we've trained our minds to be much faster. And sadly enough, a lot of recruiting processes still stuck in that era, so that a delay of any type is a disgrace, and that increasingly creates this type of pressure. Simple, what we've got to do in recruiting, we've simply got to learn from consumer tech and adopt those standards rather than think it's acceptable, to wait, over the weekend or whatever. You need to put technology in there if a human being can't do it.
I mean, Hung, you are what I would call, you're definitely obviously at the edge of the spectrum of new tech, trying to advance recruitment processes. You've been in the recruitment space for 20 years. But if you can kind of take yourself out of that role, do you think that some recruiters are afraid by technology, that they're going to be replaced or they're going to be expected to do more? I mean, we are probably very technically friendly people. We see the benefits to our roles from tech. But do you think that some HR people, some recruiters are slowing this down because they are afraid or unsure?
I don't want to speak on behalf of other people. I would imagine the answer has got to be yes to a certain degree. I think there are skeptics, for instance, and the skeptics of any change is going to be critics and skeptics, and rightly so, because you need to balance. But I don't think they're necessarily at the decision-making sort of edge of it. I can't imagine a head of talent anywhere that is going to survive very long if they were tech-phobic. Their mission that they've been given is we need to digitize and streamline, get faster and better. That's their job. So I think, maybe at the operational level, you're going to get some pushback. maybe at the one-man band level, those people are very, I run a one-man band. You get used to your own processes, and any new thing is actually difficult for you to absorb because you've got to learn it and maybe re-engineer a process. That's work. So you might end up defaulting to what has been effective in the past. Whether that group creates too much of a friction for tech adoption, I'm not so sure that's the main reason why. But yeah, sure, there's going to be people that have a problem with technology.
Okay, a very straight question. We're going to wrap up to the end of this for very soon, but one is, what are the consequences for businesses that decide that they don't want to improve candidate recruiter experience? Is there going to be a consequence in the end? Is recruitment going to become harder for those people because of reputations and things like that? Or ultimately, in a real world, it's not going to change much in the next 12 months or so? What do you think?
Really tough answer. The obvious answer is to say a reputational risk is massive, and if you damage it, you could really be in bad shape. We've seen some evidence of that where companies that have poor candidate experience or poor even employee experience have been excoriated online and devastated that way. I don't think that's even though. I think those companies most vulnerable to that usually are consumer facing. If you're selling something or previously sold something on the high streets, or that kind of people know your brand on the street, then of course your brand rep is really, really going to be high, a priority. But if you're like a B2B deep into an infrastructure process, probably it's not going to be. You could probably get away with a sort of having legacy practices a little bit longer, I would guess. But yeah, I mean, anybody listening to this, I would be hugely surprised if they're not sort of the group of people that want to improve and want to do well. So we're not talking to anybody that is sitting there really defensively about this.
Sure. So Hung, we're going to wrap it up with we're going to find out in a second where people can come and learn more about you. But the question that I ask all of my guests, which is, we talked about a lot of cool stuff that can improve recruiter candidate relationships. What are the top kind of 2 or 3 that you think people could really just kind of like start at least thinking about tomorrow?
Okay, I think one of the things that has happened with COVID-19 and the wholesale movement into distributed working is that we have lost a huge amount of intimacy between humans, particularly human beings that we hadn't met before in the past. I've noticed actually relationships differ between the people who have met before and the people who have never met in person. And I think here's an opportunity for both recruiters and candidates. Can we rehumanize the process in some way? I would say video is a great way of doing that. I would say telling your own personal story is a good way of doing that. So doing stuff that basically adds more depth to who you are. You're more than a CV. We know that. Okay, well, give the recruiter some opportunity to discover that. Do you have a website somewhere? Do you have a to the camera 60 seconds pitch about yourself? Are you talking? Do you blog anywhere? What is going on? Give that person some of the ways in which they can appreciate you as a human being. And I think that's going to help. Same goes for recruiters as well. You're more than just a representation of a brand. You're a human being with all of the richness that involves. Let's see some of that,
Yep, absolutely. No, I totally agree. I think it makes a lot of sense. And I still think, I'm from a sales background. People buy from people. They don't really buy from brands. They want to have a human connection. And, as much as maybe recruiters really now are feeling comfort in having those data fields, those forms that people fill in, you might have lost an amazing candidate who just couldn't portray their story right in that really confined setup.
Yep, 100%. I think we force people into a structure. There's going to be people that basically have optimized themselves for that structure, but have they optimized themselves for that job? Are they optimal for the job? Those are 2 different things. So there's no question that candidates can give themselves just an edge, I would say, if they're able to, tell people who they are. At the end of the day, no one wants to be hired under false pretenses. It doesn't work for you. It doesn't work for them. It doesn't work for anybody. People just want to, okay, this is who I am. This is what I can do. And then if that is communicated and people can discover that information, then that's got to be a good thing to make that recruitment match better.
Totally agree. I think we could go on and on and on. And I think that ultimately I want to talk to you today because I know that you have this knowledge and experience, and all I can do is highly recommend that people viewing the video today, you need to go and find Hung online. Hung, I know that you have Recruitment Brainfood. Where do people go? Where's the fastest place they can go from this video to learn more?
Recruitingbrainfood.com, recruitingbrainfood.com. Just check that out, or you can just type my name into Google, Hung Lee. I think you'll probably find that it's probably that website. Just sign up for the newsletter. Once you're in there, you can communicate with me. There's an online group you can get involved in as well. LinkedIn previously was good, but I've maxed out the numbers there. So I really struggle to actually connect with people there. People think I'm really rude, but I can't actually connect anymore without deleting a bunch of people, which again, I find really difficult to do. So the newsletter is the way. And then if you're there, then I'll see you over there.
Perfect. Hung, thanks so much. I think it's super valuable. Never can I imagine that it's been more valuable to have a better recruiter candidate experience, relationship, long-lasting relationship. Use the technology that was mentioned in the video today. It's there to help you, not to make you feel less important in the company. And yeah, thanks so much. And I really hope that we'll come back to you again in the future. We'll have another episode and we'll see if we were right and how far along we've managed to move since then. So thanks so much. And everyone get over to recruitmentbrainfood.com.